Hey guys, Brian here from Vintage Classic Specialist. Happy Thursday, everyone. Time for another episode of Day in the Life of Vintage Classic Specialist. This is our daily update here from our little restoration shop on what we did today. So let's start off with this mini project here that came in today. So this car has been at a few different shops and restoration shops and builders and stuff like that. And the owner of the car, again, I'm not going to name names here, but he has a machine shop, and seems to be having a pretty good time making a crap ton of custom and one-off parts for this car. I'm going to spend a few minutes here, and then maybe every day I'll try and spend a few more minutes on this car. We'll probably have this car for like a week, maybe, give or take. But, well, let's just start right here, since here we are. The car has a rack and pinion steering system, which and theoretically should give you much better steering than the VW worm gear style steering. And yeah, this thing it's pretty much a piece of art. I don't think he made this, so I think this is made by I've heard of these guys before. Is well, it's upside down, but Kirschner, I think. I don't know, I think they're probably in Germany. They're making these. I think it's a kit. I don't know how much he changed it, but anyway, I think the bones of it sort of came from those guys, and then he probably, based on what I've seen, probably made some of his own stuff for it too. But anyway, yeah, so rack and pinion steering, and see the reservoir here for the pedal assembly, which I'll show you right now. This is pretty wild stuff, guys. So there's the pedal assembly. So I don't know too much about this stuff, admittedly, but I'm pretty sure the clutch is hydraulic, brakes obviously hydraulic, the throttle seems to be regular cable actuated, which of course makes sense. But check this guy out, guys. This is the emergency brake, and carbon fiber handle, like carbon fiber tube here for the steering column. But yeah, this thing is hydraulic. It's cool. I don't know that there's any advantage to that other than being super cool. And you can see the lines here kind of splicing into the brake lines. So yeah, there you go, guys. I mean, this battery mount and just all over this car. I'm pretty sure that these seat mounts are probably custom made, custom machined by him. Carbon fiber door panels. I don't know if he made those or if those are available. All on the dash and the winders and stuff like that. By the way, if I didn't mention it already, the car is a 64, and so what it came in for is for us to work our upholstery magic. So we are doing a custom carpet kit, German squirrel weave carpet, and we're going to be doing a headliner in like an Alcantara type material. So that's what it's here for. And then it'll go back to the other shop who's kind of finishing it off. It was started at one shop, and I don't know, I think the owner of the car and the owner of the shop kind of decided to part ways, and the shop it's in currently, I think, had to redo a bunch of stuff, and it sounds like it's been a bit of a mess, but I won't go into that. And anyway, it's kind of irrelevant to what we're doing here. But yeah, we're doing custom carpet, custom headliner. And I think he's on a tight timeline. I think he's trying to finish this up here by the upcoming shows. And so decided to try and squeeze it in here to help these guys out. But yeah, look at these brakes, guys. These things are insane. And I think a lot of this stuff, again, is custom designed and made in his machine shop, which is his business. So yeah, just insane amounts of detail everywhere you look on this car. I think the back brakes are kind of the same as the front, so big Willwood calipers, and then very custom looking rotors. Just a placeholder engine block in here now, but yeah, look at that, guys. Insane. So Weber windows, as they're called, gives you access to the carburetor, so I'm assuming it's going to have probably like a dual dual IDA type motor in it. And yeah, pretty aggressive stance. I'm sure the back end will come down a little bit when they put a motor in it, although I would guess it probably has adjustable spring plates. I honestly haven't looked yet. It does not appear to have adjustable spring plates, but anyway, they can re-index it if they need to. But yeah, there you go guys. I'll probably continue to kind of crawl around this car while it's here, and if I find some other noteworthy stuff, which I'm sure I will, I'll try and show it to you, and then I'll show you guys the progress as Santiago makes it on the upholstery side. So there you go guys, new mini project. All right, hold on a second. All right guys, here we are back inside. So let's talk about what I did today. So I don't have show and tell because they're outside, and not that it's that exciting anyway, but I finished painting all of the brake rotors for the 67 Beetle, which, if I haven't mentioned it before, I think I have, is going to be Java green. Originally the car was white. So anyway, so did that first thing this morning, and then I turned my attention to this beauty, which is of course the motor for the green 68 Ghia. This beauty, a beauty for a beauty. So yeah, this motor is primarily stock, although it is, so this car would have came with a 1500 single port, and it had a 1600 single port in it, so a little bit bigger. And then pretty much as we do even with all stock motors, we bump the compression ratio a little bit, and it's got a mild cam in it, and I think single high rev springs, stuff like that. But other than that, it's stock, so it'll be a bit peppier than a stock motor, but not not like a race motor or anything, obviously. But yeah, all the tin on there, with a couple exceptions, is stock factory tin. The one thing that I did replace were the sort of sled pieces that go underneath the cylinders, and I bought the MP aftermarket ones. And so today, fitting those on, of course, I had to wrestle them for quite a while. I had test fit everything and made adjustments before I sent everything off to powder coating, but I think I hadn't actually test fit those tins under there with the heater boxes. And so those tins are probably one of the tougher tins on the motor, because they just are kind of going in all different directions, and it's a very, I don't know, I guess I'd say like three-dimensional part as far as where it's bolting up to. So you can see it comes up underneath here and meets the cylinder tin, and then wraps around under here. And on the 1-2 side, it's actually there's a separate piece here. So those two pieces have to bolt together, and they have to bolt to the engine case here and here, and they have to bolt to these tabs on the heater boxes. So yeah, again, it's like a very three-dimensional part as far as like where hardware is going in and stuff like that. And so yeah, these being aftermarket, the ones that came with the motor were in pretty bad shape, so I elected to get the aftermarket ones. And yeah, I spent a decent amount of time today wrestling them once I tried to actually fit them with heater boxes versus just like fitting them to the motor and the cylinder tin. So it's kind of like a whole other level that it has to line up here too. Anyway, so yes, I triumphed over those things, and then kind of just kept going with the tin here. The heater boxes are just on loosely for now, because of course until the muffler is done, you want to leave all that stuff loose so that you can actually assemble the muffler onto there. But yeah, there's gaskets in there. It's pretty much ready to tighten down once the muffler comes in. But for now, yeah, it's on there. It's loose. Likewise, the screws for this tin under here are loose, just because, again, you want to allow the mufflers, or the heater boxes rather, to kind of move around while you're getting the muffler on there, and then you go around and sort of tighten everything. But yeah, cylinder tins fit great. I'd checked them out before, and of course they're original cylinder tins, which, unless they've been really abused, always fit great. Likewise, the pulley tin back underneath there fit great. The breastplate fit great. The fan shroud fit super nice. Front engine tin, super nice. So speaking of super, this car or motor does have, I don't remember if I showed this yesterday. You can barely see it peeking through there, aluminum. That is one of the Impy super coolers, obviously the non-doghouse style. So yeah, I started putting those on everything. I mean, if we can shave a significant amount of temperature out of the oil, then to me that's kind of a no-brainer. And plus, you know, the original coolers, they're 50 years old plus, and you can buy new non-doghouse coolers. You can buy new doghouse coolers like regular stock style, but honestly, guys, a lot of the stuff like the new tin that you can buy, it's all made in, you know, China. I don't know that I trust a new oil cooler other than these aluminum ones, which based on their price, they better be good, and I'm not too concerned about it. But those compared to like the sort of regular stock replacement ones that are made in China, I don't know if I trust those to remain leak free. So a little bit of an upgrade here. We're using the super coolers now from Impy. So yeah, pretty much just spent the day test fitting everything, and pretty much everything's going together nicely. Again, I'm waiting on the muffler and the intake manifold at ceramic coating. So the fan shroud is just kind of sitting on there now for test fitting, but I did go ahead and assemble, you know, remove powder coating and stuff and assemble the pulley onto here, and then likewise the backing plate onto here. The fan itself is not on yet because I'm waiting on the mounting hardware for it at zinc plating. So, but yeah, at this point, once I get the muffler in, this thing's going to go together super quick. The only thing is that the engine was missing this piece of tin right here, which is the preheat tube. And so Brian Roth to the rescue, he had one, so I ran over there and bought that from him. And then it was also missing this piece of tin under here, and then the one from that side too. So I got this one for this side, also from Brian Roth. This side over here, I'll buy it new. I've already ordered that. And then, yeah, pretty much at that point, guys, once the muffler comes in, this thing will go together really quick. Still need to finish putting the distributor together once I get some fiber washers for it. I have a fuel pump on order. What else, guys? I need to go through the carburetor and rebuild it. I already have the rebuild kit, but now I'm waiting on the hardware zinc plating for that. So yeah, once these last little bits and pieces trickle in, this thing will go together super fast. And I believe that, so Brian Roth built this long block, and I think he actually ran the cam in and everything already. So once it's all fully assembled here, then I'll probably just go ahead and fire it up on the test stand here in our shop and just double check everything, do, you know, like preliminary, set the timing, make sure the carburetor is behaving well and stuff like that. And then at that point, it'll probably just sit covered for a while because the car's not really quite ready for the motor yet. But I wanted to go ahead and put it together, and then, you know, like I said, it'll probably just sit covered up for a while, but it'd be nice to kind of check that box off as far as the motor being ready to sort of stuff in here once the rest of the car is at a good point. So, guys, I believe that is actually about it today, other than painting brake rotors, focused on getting this thing together. And so I think that is it. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.